Milan fans in the stadium, Novak Djokovic, that you might have seen, might put it. It looks like it might be game, set and match for Inter Milan based on this evening's performance. Brian, what do you make of it?
Well, I'd say Inzaghi might be slightly disappointed that they're not further ahead than 2-0. They dominated the game, they're in control, had 2 early goals, several other very good chances over the game. AC Milan hardly troubled them right through the match. The goalkeeper, Nana, had nothing to do. And look, at 2-0, it's not finished. I mean, obviously, AC Milan have got to get the first goal in the next match, and then it opens up the tie. Both teams have to play the weekend. AC Milan have to go to Spezia, and Inter play Sassuolo. Both of them are competing for the fourth Champions League place, so they can't neglect that. And then AC Milan have a chance to regroup. Match comes up next Tuesday, not a lot of time. Other than the Leo one, if he is fit, can he make that much difference to bring them into the game? I don't think so, because Inter can afford to play like they did in the second half tonight and sit in and not leave spaces for them to exploit.
They felt in control, didn't they? They did a bit of a number on AC Milan, certainly first half.
It was a beautiful performance from Inter Milan. Everything they wanted, everything Inzaghi would have wanted. He'll be delighted at 2-0. I know Brian said he wants more, but he'll be ecstatic with what he did. His team showed up tonight, ran right over the top of AC Milan's midfield. Wing-backs caused carnage. Dzeko was superb. Bastoni outstanding at centre-back. Onana's distribution was brilliant. They got their noses in front, they continued to press, and then the second half they made a couple of defensive-minded substitutions, getting Brozovic on, and they tweaked around the formation. Darmian ended up going over here to left-back, and they saw it out comfortably. They were still in control. Even though AC Milan were trying to muster something, they were in complete control. I can't tell how disappointed I am in AC Milan that they didn't show anything. Now, I know the San Siro is both their stadiums, but AC Milan, their home team, they have the vast majority of the crowd. The stadium is done up in their regalia, and it's there.
That can't have been.
No, but what I'm saying to you is their fans would cheer them on, would get them going.
They never give their fans anything to get behind, I suppose.
They never give the fans anything, and like I said, the Inter fans were way up in the away section, so their fans started leaving early after 85 minutes. They never mustered anything, and their fans were a little bit dejected as well. And then next week, the inverse of that is Inter Milan will have the vast majority of, Inter will have the vast majority of fans in the stadium. They're in a great position now, but at 2-0, it's still delicately balanced.
Well, it's not dead yet.
It's absolutely not dead, no.
6 days to turn it around. It's not a lot of time, is it, for AC Milan? They were well beaten. Make a general point, lads, before we move on to the game. And people would have been watching last night and tonight and would... certainly I felt watching it that there was a huge gulf in the standard between the two games. Is that fair to say that tonight was not of the same quality as what we saw last night?
That's very fair. AC Milan struggled to keep possession in the first half. They couldn't stick 5 or 6 passes together, maybe even 3 or 4. Knocking her up to Giroud, bouncing off, and Diaz couldn't get a hold of it. Salmakers were running into the opposition, losing possession. Tonali, Krunic struggling to get into the game. But as regards the quality compared to last night, if you look at tonight's game and the two teams, to be blunt about it, many of the players are discards from the Premier League. And, they're old players. They're doing okay. They've got to the Champions League semi-final. But it's hard to see, I would say, any of the top 6 teams in the Premier League wanting to buy too many of them players. Damien gave Tomori a good reference before the match. He just did all right tonight. But outside of him, Leo didn't play. Barella would be one that would be wanted. There's not too many more. Maybe Bastoni, DeMarco, maybe. But I don't think that the depth and quality is not there.
Inter Milan would frighten a couple of the two teams we saw last night.
Would they?
Well, I think with their energy. They obviously, we talked before that Benfica exposed Inter Milan on the counter-attack. AC Milan never did today. With the amount of bodies they flood forward. But I think just the pace, the energy that the two wing-backs bring, the two midfield players, Lukaku or Dzeko up front with Lautaro, they could cause those teams problems, absolutely. But what I will say is that the two teams last night will be able to counter very, very quickly and transition and get at Inter Milan, something that AC never did tonight.
Yeah.
But I mean, AC Milan were poor tonight. I think it's touch unfair to say that the quality of last night and the quality of what we saw from Inter tonight, I thought Inter were pretty good tonight. I think that's a touch unfair. But AC just didn't show up tonight.
I don't think Inter's midfield would match either of the midfields we saw last night. But it remains to be seen, because they have a good chance of going through. They looked a much more likely team to go through, and they're going to have to come up with a plan then to play against the winners the other game. And there's no doubt that they will.
If in terms of coming up with a plan, you have to say that Simone Inzaghi got so much bang on this evening, didn't he, Damien? Like, before the game, one of the calls we talked about that he might have to make was, does he start Lukaku or does he start Edin Dzeko? Now, you're going to look at the first goal, the crucial, first goal breakthrough, and just a little bit of cleverness here from Dzeko.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is man marking, and they bunch up. And what you do as a defender when they bunch up is, rather than trying to stay with your man and you all get tangled up and you end up getting blocked, is Tomori saying to Calabria, you take the middle one, I'll take the one around the back. All of a sudden, Dzeko ends up in the middle one. That's how Calabria ends up, because before the game, I'm pretty sure that Tomori would have marked Dzeko. But as soon as they bunch up, you just thought, we want to take a step back as a defender, and that's how Calabria ends up with him, and he's just not strong enough. I think Calabria actually has a really good position, in front of him, making contact with Dzeko. He's just not strong enough. Dzeko.
So, like, it's a clever thing there that Dzeko sees. I've got Tomori, who's a big centre half with me. Yeah. I'd rather have a duel with Calabria, who's a smaller fullback.
Yeah, I mean,
little switcheroo, and then.
Well, I mean, when you bunch up as an attacker, and then the three of the lads break, one goes near, one goes middle, one goes far. The three defenders don't want to be kind of in and around each other, and I want to stay with him. So obviously, Tomori says to Calabria, or whoever the first one was, you take the first one. Calabria, you take the middle one. I take the one that goes around the back. Obviously, the way it panned out is that Calabria ended up with him. So it's an awkward one. We've discussed at length the merits of zonal marking versus man marking. Man marking has its faults as well, or its flaws. There's no perfect way to defend a set piece. That's why a lot of teams are doing hybrids now, because when they bunch up like that and they all spring, it's very, very difficult to stick with your man. And unfortunately, Calabria is just not strong enough. He just got bullied.
Muscled out of it. Yeah, it was a great finish though as well. Second goal then, Brian, like Damien was looking at the wing backs and the attacking midfielders and the way that Inter attacked before the game, and you can see a lot of that in the second goal.
Yeah, well, look, this is a vital part of the play. Lovely build up here, flick on Barella. DeMarco gets there. Dzeko makes a run and pulls Tomori with him. Lautaro steps over it. Knows that Mkhitaryan is coming in. Big gap, big space opens up. Little slip by Simon Kerr there as he tries to close off the gap, but he's too late getting there. Tonoli just caught it wrong side. Could he have sprinted a bit quicker and cut him off? I thought Tonoli did all right overall in the match, but Mkhitaryan, very good. Been around a long time.
As you said, another Premier League cast-off.
Yeah, but they've all found a niche at this level. But he's had a very good spell lately in this Inter team.
There was a big incident, though, in that first half that could have gone Inter's way and could have killed off the tie.
Yeah,
there's another look at this.
First viewing, I thought it was a penalty. It was one of those ones where there's a clash or coming together and he trips him. And when a referee gives a penalty and there is contact, and we see that his knee just clips him and his foot comes up, there is contact. And I'm delighted to see that the referee went over, looked at it and said, it's not enough for a penalty. It's just a footballing incident, two players coming together and he overturned it. Normally, for a referee to overturn a penalty decision, it has to be clear and obvious. Normally, once they give it and there is even slight contact, they normally stick with their decision. So I'm delighted. And I must say as well, I'm delighted with the way the referee the game. They weren't dishing out yellow cards. We're at the semi-final of the Champions League. You don't want a game decided on a refereeing decision. So they have been a lot more lenient with a lot of the tackles. I know Brian spoke about the game last night, Carvajal and all the antics that was going on there. The referee was very, very lenient. But what you don't want to do is early start dishing out yellow cards, set a standard for yourself, and all of a sudden now you might send someone off, and that's deciding a game of this magnitude, and that's not right.
If you're Inter Milan and you see that incident, and yes, OK, it's not the most clear-cut penalty, but are you still a little bit annoyed that it's overturned because there is contact, there is a hand on the back, and it's a marginal call?
I'd say if we hear the two managers speaking at some stage after the game, they'll give you two different versions. If it had been given, the referee did turn it over. AC Milan's coach Pioli would have said it was very soft penalty. He hardly touched him. His hand went on the side and he dived to the ground. Whereas Inzaghi will say it was a blatant penalty. I don't know why VAR advised the referee to have a look at it. There'll always be a bit of controversy about it, but I agree. I didn't think there was enough in it for a definite penalty.
Okay, fair enough. And obviously the VAR agreed and the referee agreed when he went to look at it. You both talked there about how disappointed you are with AC Milan's display, and certainly when it was put up to them, and what can you muster in an attacking sense? There was very little. We're going to look at a few of the bits and bobs here, Brian, but it was few and far between, wasn't it?
As I said, they couldn't get the attacking players into the game without Leo in the left-hand side. We've seen him dashing forward, making great breaks, making things happen, but they looked kind of lightweight and uninspired. That was their best effort in the first half. Calabria getting in from the right back position inside, little flick into the side netting. But really, Diaz got on the ball a little bit in the second half, a little bit more than he had in the first half. We see him finding the odd pocket of space. That's where I said I thought Tonali had quite a good game, good pass forward, but that was a very poor attempt and goal. Origi had initial impact for a couple of minutes, and then he just faded out of it. Like, had Tonali scored there,
wasn't it? Yeah.
It wouldn't have been a proper reflection on the game, because overall they were just very brief little moments, whereas Inter's play and general play was much more organised, clear-cut and definitive, I'd say. Their chances were too.
So they look like a team that, you know, I mentioned that stat at half-time that they've, you know, won 16 of their league wins this season have come from when they've gone ahead in games. Do they look like a team that when they fall behind, they're kind of goosed? Considering how they got through, getting ahead against Spurs, getting ahead against Napoli, and
I think that's obviously a trend with them. And when you look at the way the game panned out, they never really got themselves going. A lot of teams, when they go a goal down or they go behind, the opposition, especially when they're making conservative substitutions to an element of protecting what they have, you mount a charge and you create periods of sustained pressure, you pin them in and you're having chances, and, you know, the team in the lead, their goal is leading a charmed life, and we never saw that. They never got anything going. Inter saw that out quite comfortably, and that would be disappointing. But look, next week is a fresh game. It's a new game. Hopefully Leo is back. That's what the manager will be saying. 2-0 isn't irreversible. Yeah. It's absolutely still in the balance. And
one of the things that you were keen to point out is the the role of the wing backs, Di Marco one side, Dumfries on the other, and just how the licence they have seemed to join in all the time.
The pace, the energy and the fitness levels required to play wing back for this Inter Milan team is something else. Di Marco there making the internal run, taking full backs with him, creates this panic really. We're going to highlight him here. Look, Dumfries is on the penalty spot. You know, and it looks like there's a break on. Ball goes into Martinez, and the ball spins round. And who's the first one into the picture on the other side of the Milan defenders? You know, another one here with it's Di Marco. Look at him at the top of the screen there. Look how quickly he changes. They're high-speed runs. That is nearly full-out sprint. And there he is arriving late. So, you know, the role of a wing-back, you know, attacking wing-back or defensive wing-back, but these guys are doing it both. They're getting back into a flat-back five and need to defend. This is the best one. Dumfries on the ball here, Di Marco at the top of the screen. So Dumfries starts it off with a little pop-in, and watch him follow the ball. Ball goes wide to Di Marco. There are two wing-backs. And look who's at the end of it in the 6-yard box. The energy levels and the fitness levels. Di Marco again, 58 minute. Look at him run right off the back of Tonali. Tonali can't stay with him. Fortunately, the pass doesn't come. But my overall point is, you know, when you're playing as a wing-back, you're defensive-minded, you can be attack-minded, you're allowed to join in. These guys could do it all very, very quickly. The amount of ground they chew up from the transition, which was a piece we did before the show, to give the attacking players options is impressive.
Just a final point in that, if it is them who go through to a final against either Real Madrid or Manchester City, you know, I think when you mentioned a little while ago that would that be an area where those teams would look to say, yeah, we can exploit back then, because if they're up there, then sure there's space.
Absolutely, because, you know, the piece we did at the top of the show was the attack with 6, you know, because the two wing-backs go, Mkhitaryan and Barella go, and they leave Calhanoglu and the 3 centre-backs. You're attacking with 6, defending with 4.
Yeah.
Man City will absorb that, and then they'll flip the ball over and they'll work it through the lines quickly, and that 4 will get exposed. Benfica did it. If you go back and look at that game, the amount of clear-cut chances Benfica created was worrying, but AC Milan never threatened them tonight, so they had their way with it.
Might be a different story if they make it through to the final. They might need a different plan. The plan they had this evening certainly worked. Yeah, it was a crazy good first 10 minutes for Inter, and crazy good performance from him as well, at 37 years old. Big player this evening. But he gives a nice summary of the match, really, doesn't he? About the way that Inter went and said, we're going to have a go early on, press them high, and they took advantage of it early on.
And then he said, we controlled the game after that. And he's right. I thought it was a good summary. I think they would feel very, very good about themselves tonight. AC Milan, they'll be looking at it and scrambling for an angle to say, how can we get back? And the way is, well, we will play better, we'll start better, and we get the first goal of the match. I was involved in one time. We were 2-0 down. We had to play the same team 3 days later. It was Croatia, actually. And I remember thinking before the match, they think it's done. I told the players they think it's done, and we turned it around. We won the second.
So the psychological thing.
Yeah, the psychological thing is Inter feel they have the job done tonight. AC Milan have to say, well, we know we need to get the first goal in the second match, but if we get the first goal, changes the game, changes the attitude.
Concur with that, Damien?
They might be good enough to do it.
It'll be interesting to see how Inter approach it, because when they got the noses in front, Brozovic came on, they changed the shape of it a little bit, changed the midfield setup as well, and went a little bit more conservative. You know, do they start the second leg in that manner, or do they come out and play as aggressive with what Dzeko said there?
Okay.
These are
big decisions.